Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
How are you? Good morning, America. Good morning, Zambia. Good morning, Australia. Good morning, wherever you are watching us today or you watch. Today is a beautiful day. And I have a very special guest. My very own niece, who's a doctor and very well accomplished. Talk about women in empowerment. But then, of course, this is Speak Your Truth, right? What would Speak Your Truth be if I was going to tell her story? So I'm going to introduce Dr. Label to you. Hey, Doc, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. As you can see, I'm smiling all over. I need to stop smiling like this.
The smiles are good. Smiles
All right,
are
guys,
good.
before we get into the juicy, I've known Doc when she was but just a very, very like tiny girl. She's in Johannesburg, South Africa, so that you know, and in Pretoria. She's in Pretoria, actually, not Johannesburg. She's in Pretoria. I've known her family, they are my family, and we've been since I lived in South Africa for a long time. That's where I met her mother, her sisters, and the amazing things she's accomplished. But it's not my story to tell. So, Doc, introduce yourself.
Okay, hi. Thank you, Auntie Mwans. Hi, everyone. Hi. As has already been said, my name is. I have a long name, especially if you're in Zambia. It's a very foreign sounding name. Although Ndimu Bemba, so I do speak Bemba. I am a Bemba girl, but my father is South African, so I have quite a long name. It's Olebogeng Selebi, or Doctor Olebogeng Selebi. So I'm a half South African, half Zambian girl who has been living in South Africa, I think, since I was 2, and I guess a little bit academically inclined, and have my PhD in strategic communication management, and I'm a lecturer, or a senior lecturer, actually, at the University of Pretoria here in South Africa. So I think in a nutshell, that's me.
You know what? There's something I wanted to say, like, bad girls throughout history. I was thinking about you. I need to send you this book because the things you have done, you gotta just at your young age, which I won't tell because you're very young, and you make some of us cry, but you have accomplished so much. And I just want to talk to you about your journey. Okay, Italy, and then all the countries you've been to and traveled, and then okay, tell us about that. Okay, tell us just your from high school and your BSc and then everything. Just tell us a little bit about that and your journey, because I was reading your bio. I'm like, whew, I needed B12.
Well, I just thought I should close the curtain because I could see a bit of a glare. But I you know, when you're telling your story, you always feel like you don't even know where to start, because sometimes I think we underestimate the power of our story. But you just never know who you can encourage with your story and where you come from.
Exactly.
So, as I said, I was born in Zambia. I was born in Kalingalinga, which is I'm sure you know it. It's a small clinic, Kalingalinga Hospital or Clinic in Kalingalinga in Lusaka. And one thing, I just always believed in the power of education. And there are so many reasons and so many role models, including my mother, who motivated me to become an educated woman, right? But I believe there are two things that gave me, or maybe even three things that I believe gave me the permission to be who I am. Because I do believe that sometimes, and it's something that I still struggle with, is that we need to give ourselves permission to be great.
Wow.
And as I said, I still struggle with it because sometimes you'll look at other people and you'll think this person is much more qualified than me. They should be in that position, right? But the reason we feel that way is because we're not giving ourselves permission to be who God has created us to be, right? And I believe when I think of my journey, there are three that I can think of, people slash stories that I felt gave me permission to be who I am. The first thing is my mother, right? My mother had a law degree at a time when it wasn't very common for young Black women to be educated. So already she studied at UNZA, and already just seeing her, I knew that it was possible for me. Right now, my mother didn't have a PhD, but immediately you see someone with something. It's just like if your parents were successful entrepreneurs, right? Being an entrepreneur will not be something that's far-fetched for you because you've seen it in your environment.
Exactly.
So also the idea of being educated for me wasn't this far-fetched, insane thing that I couldn't do because I had that example. Then the second thing I would say was my dad, because my father, I must say, my father loves an ambitious woman. And I think that's part of what attracted him to my mom, because she had a law degree, and everywhere we would go, when he would introduce my mom, he would say, my wife is a lawyer, right? So as a young woman, I never felt I had to dim my light, right? Because he also gave my mom permission to be a great woman. And so I felt that I can be great because I have the permission to do that. And then the third one is a woman I absolutely adore, and that is Oprah Winfrey. Oh, if I could meet that woman, I think I would melt into a puddle.
Oh, should I boast that she is my mentor on every Tuesday?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I would, if I had Oprah as a mentor, I would melt. I tell you, I absolutely adore that woman. And I feel like she's another person that gave me permission to be great. Because, okay, now I don't know if I'm over talking.
No. You speak your truth. It's your truth.
Okay.
And somebody is hearing now, and then will hear your story, and then they'll be very, very motivated, because sometimes we don't hear stories from young ladies like you. We never get that, and other young ladies don't get to listen to that. So we need to hear your story. I love the way even you saying you gave yourself permission. I actually even didn't think if I gave myself permission. We just go through life. But when you hear where you say somebody, oh, I give myself permission. So somebody's listening. Oh, so there's this way you can give yourself permission to be.
Yes.
Yes,
like be it. Just flow into
it.
it. It's available to you. Because the one story
that's hi to my listeners before, because I know we have a watch group in Zambia. I know Elias is in Zambia right now, and he just had a daughter just 3 days ago. I needed to say that congratulations. Yes, and he's having a watch group, and he had and thank you, Sister Gwenny. And I know my grandma and the other people are listening somewhere, but this is the reason why I say, no, you are not over speaking, because you are encouraging. Because some of those things I didn't even know, like Oprah is the one who said, do the right thing, give your permission to be you, learn to say no. And then what you are saying, sometimes, like my daughters, what I do is they would be here, but they'll be making a lot of noise. But as soon as we finish, they'll be listening to you. Sometimes they might not hear what I'm saying, but they see you like, oh God, when did I tell you? About 3 years ago, I told you need to be a mentor to my kids. And guys, whoever is watching, please be sure to like and subscribe. This is very important, and share it because this is powerful. This young lady is powerful. Yep, and Sister Gwenny says, speak your truth and inspire the young women to give themselves the permission to go out there and do whatever they want to be, and be whatever they want to be. So it's important. No, you're not over speaking, and I'm sorry, I kind of stopped, but that is just the truth. It's your truth, and we want to hear it.
Yes. I'm glad.
And you can, how many languages do you speak again?
Well, I would say three, not that many. It's English, of course, and then Tswana, which is my dad's language, or Sotho, Tswana, and Bemba. So I would say ththose three are the ones that I'm most
So
comfortable
Swan and
speaking.
Zulu, which one is which?
Yeah, well, Zulu is more like the lower part of South Africa in KwaZulu Natal. That's where it's mostly spoken, or sometimes even in Johannesburg. But my dad is not Zulu; he's Tswana.
Yeah.
Yes,
So which is Unjani?
it's Zulu.
No, okay, Nkona.
Yeah, you see? So you can come back and be just fine.
I'll just be fast, kissy.
If the Americans don't take care of you, you can come home. Okay, you'll be just fine.
Icon, I'm just fine in America right now.
I told you.
But I can speak, though being in America for so long, I've kind of lost, because I used to speak what's this? Like the German language. I've even forgotten Afrikaans. I used to do that because I worked for Deloitte and
Yes.
Touche, and then
Yes.
I used
Oh,
to speak
yes.
that, and then Zulu quite well because I lived in Johannesburg for a while. But now I've kind of lost it. But
Yes.
then
After a while,
talk about your school, your education after high school, the whole things you've done. I was reading your biography. You guys, whoever wants me to send her biography, I'll send it because it's long. Elias says thank you, MPG and Doc. So I'll send it because it's long. So tell us about that.
Well, for me, I always believed that, and again, it comes back to Oprah, because one thing that she always said was that education changed her life. And
Yes.
growing up, I would always watch, there was this very popular show in South Africa called Top Billing. And
Yes.
in Top Billing, they would always show beautiful homes. They would show people who are living fabulous lives, beautiful homes, driving nice cars, traveling. And when Oprah said education changed my life, I thought this is the thing that is going to give me that life that I see, that I desire, right? And one thing that I did was I created a vision board.
Oh yeah.
And the Bible always talks about the importance of vision. So I'm not advocating for vision boards in particular, but the creation of your vision, the writing down of your vision, where you take pen and paper and say, this is what I see myself to be, right? Whether it's in picture form, in a vision board form, or paper, pen and paper together, and you write that down. But it's important to see that this is where I'm going. So I created a vision board. On that vision board, I had the grades I wanted to get because I was still in high school. So I wrote down, I want to get these grades because education is going to take me there. And I put a picture of a woman with a PhD gown, right? And I stuck her on there. And I stuck that same picture even on my desk at home where I would study. And another thing that I did was I drew a map of the world by hand. I just drew a little sketch of the earth, and I wrote down on that map all the different countries I wanted to see, because again, I associated success with travel and education, right?
Yes.
So because of that, I studied very hard, and I got distinctions in matric. In South Africa, we call it matric, which is grade 12. I was the highest scoring student in my district at the time. And
yes, you
ended
were.
up, ended up going to the University of Pretoria. And I remember while I was at the university, I told my friends, I said, as I'm studying right now, because all of us were talking about, okay, when we finish school, we're going to go get a job and I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. And as we were talking, I told them that for me, I see myself getting a PhD. And of course, when you're young, time is a very different concept when you're young, right? So when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 10 years is a very long time. So when I told my friends, I'm going to get my PhD, and they said, how long is that going to take? And I said, it's going to take 10 years. They almost fell out of their seats. They said, girl, you are crazy. Right? But because that was the vision I wrote down. And that's why I said it's so important to write it down for yourself so that you can always come back to it. Because it's so easy to get distracted by what other people are doing. But everyone is on their own journey. You have your path. Everybody else has their own path. And in order for you not to get distracted, you have to keep coming back to that vision, right? So even when my friends said, 10 years, you're insane, I knew that this is something that I have to do for myself.
I know.
And the reality is, when it comes to time will move anyway, right? Those 10 years will pass. They will pass regardless. And if God has gifted you with life, because life is a gift, if you see those 10 years, they will pass anyway. So why not dedicate that time to something that you can be proud of, right? So I did my first degree and I enrolled for my honors degree, completed the honors degree. And then while I was busy with my master's, because in South Africa, we have an honors degree. Honors is basically your fourth year. So you can complete your degree at 3 years if you want to, depending on the program, because there are some programs that have 4-year degrees. So I did my honors, which is basically your fourth year. Then I went on and did my master's. While I was doing my master's, I was quite unhappy, right, with the job that I was working at the time. I wasn't happy with my job. And so my dad, as I was talking to my dad, because I still lived with my parents, and I told my dad, I'm really unhappy in this job. I don't know what to do. And he said, forget about that job. Write a letter to your previous professor or your professor in the department that you're studying in at university. And he said, just let them know that this is what I want. I wanna come and work at the university. Because he said, you're young, try different things. So if you don't like it here, maybe apply for something else, try it, So I applied. So I contacted my professor, my late professor. Her name was Ronelle Rensburg, a wonderful woman. She passed away maybe 3 years ago. And funny enough, a wonderful woman. Funny enough, when I emailed her, she said, you won't believe it, a post just opened, And again, it brings me back to vision, connecting with God and connecting with your work, right? Because I believe there's something spiritual about vision and committing that vision to God. But at the same time, you have to put in the work, right? So
I was already halfway through. You have to put in the work.
You have to put in the work. So you need that vision and you pray about it and you commit it to God. And I mean, even the Bible says, write down the vision, make it plain and I will run with it, right? So it has to be that connection between vision, committing it to God, and executing that vision to the best of your ability. Doing your part is so important. Yes. So I was doing my part. I was studying. I was applying. I can't tell you how many things I have applied for that I haven't gotten, right? So when people look at your life, they see all the, she did this. She was able to, she went to this country. But you have no idea how many things I applied for that I didn't get, right? But fact is, I did the work.
Can I ask you something, Dr. Level? How do you, now that you said there's so many things that you've applied for that you didn't get, being a woman of a certain age, I've come to know that, and sometimes you get so fearful that you won't be able to get that, and then you stop trying. How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with rejection? Because when you're really wanting this thing and then you don't get it, and it might sometimes you want to feel like you want just to sleep in bed, but how do you just get up and like, nope, let's do this, let's try another one?
Yes, I think for me now, it's a difficult thing because I think for me, there's nothing wrong with feeling the sadness of rejection, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Because it's a
that's
natural
powerful.
thing.
There's
I believe
nothing wrong.
yes,
There's nothing wrong to feel with the sadness of rejection. That is powerful.
yes. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. We're human. And we have to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, right? So I've
Mm-hmm.
felt that feeling of rejection, and it's very sad. Especially, I mean, there's this one thing that I want so badly, and I've applied for it
Mm-hmm.
like 5 times, and they've said no to me 5 times. And this year again, I applied for it again. And I'm waiting to hear at the end of this year, I'm waiting to hear from them again to
Mm-hmm.
hear have I gotten it or
Mm-hmm.
not, right? But also, I feel that sadness, and it's okay. I allow myself to feel that. But at some point, I get to the point where I separate the rejection, myself being rejected, from my application being rejected. Because sometimes when an application is rejected, we feel like it's the self being rejected. It's like you're rejecting me, right? But they're not
Yeah.
rejecting you. There's something about the application, or maybe you are not ready for it yet. Maybe there are certain skills they're still waiting for you to acquire, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you know, if let's say I'm in grade 1, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to apply to go to university, they're going to reject me, not
Mm-hmm.
because there's something wrong with me, but because I'm not yet, there's something that I don't yet have that I can still acquire, right? So for me, when I'm trying to deal with rejection, I separate that it's not me being rejected. There's nothing wrong with Olebogeng as a person. There's nothing wrong with me. It's not me that's being rejected. It's
Wow.
my application. Maybe I'm not there yet for them at this point in time, right? And immediately I get back to that point,
Okay,
I
let me
fill in
just
my
pause on
application.
something just before I forget. You are so deep, and the way you articulate and explain things. I know my goodness. I'm
It's
about
watching
to
Oprah.
say no, seriously, and I had to interject on that because, to be honest, I'm sitting here so proud, and a lot of people you can see here. Awesome, you are a superstar level, and I'm enjoying your talk. And Elias goes there. The action part is very important, very inspiring, amazing. Rejection even helps us to explore other ventures, which is very true. And
Oh,
you
yes.
know, you being a young lady, and you should have your own platform the way you speak. If I could speak half the way you speak, my goodness. Okay, quickly, because we tell us all the country. Did it really take you 10 years to do the PhD?
It took me 10 years. It took me 10 years to get the PhD. I got it. I was 27, 28 in that bracket, got the PhD, and I've traveled to so many countries. Because I
Yes, tell
ended up
us
getting
about
the
those
job.
countries.
Yes, I ended up getting the job. And that's why, again, there's a lecturer of mine when I was in the third year of my university journey. And she was lecturing us, and there was something that she said that's why you just never know what you may say that could impact someone.
Mhm.
She said,
Exactly.
you can never, she said, you can never be upset about not being selected if you don't put your name in the hat, right? And that's why in
Ooh,
my life, I just put my name in the
say
hat.
that
You can't
again.
say, you can never be upset about not being accepted if you never put your name in the hat. You can never be
Wow.
upset that they didn't choose you,
Yeah, they
that
didn't.
you
You
didn't
didn't
make
put your
yourself
name in
a choice.
there.
You didn't put your name in the hat. So my life has been an exercise of putting my name in the hat. Like, I don't know if you know the book by Shonda Rhimes, a Year
Oh
of
yes,
Yes, I think it's
yes,
called.
yes, 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 yes.
Say
That's
yes to things, and you just never know where it may take you. So I ended up starting working as a lecturer, and again
mm-hmm.
putting my name in that. I saw an ad that the university posted about a program. You apply for this, and then you get to go to Italy for a few weeks. Applied for that, went. I've
Yeah,
traveled. I went to Italy. I went to I was in Germany recently. I'm going to Turkey next
Germany.
week. I've been to Austria. I've been to Slovenia. I've been all over the place. I can't remember all the places.
And
But
then this is
again,
something
when I
you wrote on
see,
your vision board.
it was in the vision board. And there's one powerful story I can tell you is
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, while I was doing my PhD, there was a program that I applied where I could go and study in the Netherlands for
Yes.
for 6 months or something like that. I applied for it, and these applications take long, so it's a grueling process. So I applied for
Yes.
it, sent in the application. I went to the pastors, the anointing oil. I used to be very into that. They put anointing oil on my application. We are going, praise the Lord, hallelujah. And one day,
Wow.
and
I love that.
praise the Lord. And one of the things that I did, because it was the Netherlands, I went online,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a very popular museum in the Netherlands. It's called the Rijksmuseum. I printed out a picture of that museum. It's in Amsterdam. And every night before I went to bed, I would look at that picture and I would imagine myself standing in front of that museum. I would smell the air. I would imagine myself drinking a nice milkshake, and I'm going there. By faith, I'm going. And
Everything, my
2
vision
weeks
board,
later,
everything is in here.
I tell you, it's so important, because 2 weeks later, I received a terrible email saying, unfortunately, we regret to inform you that you have not received this scholarship or this opportunity. And I felt so discouraged, and I completely forgot about it. Fast forward to maybe 2 years later, I was on an exchange trip. I was studying at the University of Porto in Portugal. I was there for about 6 months. And as I'm sitting in my apartment, I received a phone call from my late professor. And I was just about to come back to South Africa. I was about 2 weeks away from coming back home. And I picked up the phone. Hi, Prof, how are you doing? Then she said, hi, Ole, great. And you and all that. And we had a nice conversation. Then she said, how do you feel about going to the Netherlands for 4 months? Out of the blue. Then I said, I would love that. That would be great. And I didn't connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so a few weeks later, I ended up going to the Netherlands, and I was teaching at a university there for 4 months because one of my other colleagues could not
Wow.
go. That's how that opportunity happened. And I didn't realize that the manifestation of God's promise until I was standing in front of the museum, breathing the air. And I looked around and I realized, oh my God, this is the vision that I had, right? And that's why I say that it's so important, that connection between vision, committing that vision to God, and putting in the work, no matter how long it takes. I do believe that God is faithful to his
Wow.
promise, but we have to do our part.
We have you guys, sorry, I have this young woman here in a short period of time. She's lived a life that it would take to be 100 years to live what she's lived. And I'm telling you, she's so young, you won't even believe it. It's not even funny. I'm looking at my life right now. I'm like, oh God, what did I do with my life?
No,
But is anybody being inspired? And is anybody here? Just listen to what she's done. And I won't tell her age unless it's not mine to tell, but she's very young. But the things she's done in just that, I always tell my youth, never waste your 20s. And you never wasted your 20s at all. I always tell my youth, never. And then talking about the vision board, you're actually not preaching. It's something that I truly emphasize. I've got a tribe on Facebook that we have a lot of people. I met everybody have a vision board. And the reason why it's because if you don't see it, like Oprah says, if you cannot
yes,
touch it, put it sometimes on the mirror if you really are discouraged. Oh,
very
like
important.
you see, and it's very important. But can you talk about something quickly? I know we have some very special guests behind the scenes helping, and we'll have to wrap up soon. But there's something I want you to talk about. being intentional, and then being disciplined, because you
Mhm.
go to Zambia. I think one time you talked about it, like you're coming from Zambia, like, Zambians. The power of being disciplined, because even
Yes.
me, I struggle with that
Mhm.
procrastination.
Oh,
We
yes.
did a challenge on procrastination, and we started with so many people. By the time we finished, we only had maybe like 20 people left. Elias
Mhm.
is there, he's here listening. I can tell, like, yeah, my daughter. Oh, hi Zambia, my Zambian people have just been here. Like, Elias says, I've been applying for a government job for about 5 years now. I have never been accepted. You have just answered. Yeah, you have just answered the question I've been asking myself. How can you encourage Elias on that?
I just believe you are already doing the work by continuing to apply. That's very important. Continue putting your name in the hat. And also, it's important that you continue finding ways of developing yourself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we don't I believe that in order for us to achieve what it is that we're trying to achieve, we have to be actively becoming the person that fills that role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's important that we don't wait to say, I will become this person once I have this thing, right? What are
Mm-hmm.
some of the ways that you can become that person now? What are some of the ways that you can become a person who is employed in government in this particular role? What are some of the skills that you can be learning? For instance, I know, and see, one of the conversations we had previously was about the importance of soft skills, communication skills, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a skill
Mm-hmm.
that I believe so strongly has helped my career so much, right? Because at the end
That's
of the day,
everything.
it's such an important skill, and I used to take it for granted. But now when I've seen where I've gotten, I can see that my ability to articulate myself, my ability to communicate with people was such an important skill. It helped me so much. So how can you develop your communication skills? How can you develop your skills
Hmm.
as a writer? How can you develop
Yes.
your technical skills? Online, there are so many free courses, things you can learn, Excel, advanced Excel. You can learn, advanced digital online skills. And sometimes we are sitting waiting until we get to that point. But how can you start becoming that person now? I think will help you and aid you in your process.
Wow. Like my daughter Clementina from Zambia say, wow, Lebo, you are amazing, sister. Thank you. We have learned a lot from you. Girl power.
Thank you. Thank
Really,
you.
this is about women and empowerment. Like you said, Oprah said something. I was telling my daughters about, everywhere I go, you find me with million books because I read a lot. Oprah said the
Mhm.
moment I learned to read, that is when I
Mhm.
got liberated. Reading
Oh
saved,
yes.
actually, that's how reading
Oh,
saved my life.
yes. Oh
So,
yes. Oh
and
yes.
then we have a culture, not just around Africa, where we really don't read, like not just
Mhm.
education, or just like you pick a book, you start reading. What can you talk
Yes.
about that? And then after that, we'll thank everybody, and then we can wrap. Are you gonna come back again, because this is powerful? So, what do you talk about reading, and
Yes.
where you just pick a book? It doesn't have to
Oh
be
yes.
educate anything. Just pick something you don't even know
Yes.
what you learn about. Can you tell
Yes.
us about that?
Yes. Reading is so important. I mean, it improves your skills of articulation. You are able to articulate yourself much better, right? Because it improves your vocabulary as well. It's such an important skill. And the wonderful thing these
Mm-hmm.
days is, even when we are trying to inform ourselves, there's so many ways to do that. I just believe that the internet has empowered us to unbelievable levels.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there's that popular saying that the machines, or the computers that were used to put a man on the moon, are
Mm-hmm.
not even don't even have the
Mm.
fraction of power of the cell phones that we carry in our pockets, right? There is so much information
Oh,
on there, so many skills that we can acquire. And reading is such an important thing because, again, it helps you with your articulation. It helps you even with your thought process. You're able, because if you can
yes.
follow the words in the book, it's easier even to articulate your own thoughts in your own mind, right? To organize the way that you think. It just helps you to be a much more organized thinker, a more organized speaker, right? So it's such an important skill, but
Yes.
at the same time, it's so important that we learn to acquire information everywhere because our phones,
Mm,
I feel like it's such an underutilized tool, right? I mean, even as you
you
and I
know
are
what?
sitting here and having this
Just to stop,
conversation,
just to
people are
stop you on that. I'm
people are
sorry to,
consuming.
like you said, there's so much to be utilized on the but most of our youths and my even us adults, we just go there to check Facebook and who likes your. But then there's so
Mhm.
many things you can do on the internet. So look at
So many.
us. This is
Yes.
exactly look everybody's Facebook, YouTube, and everything. But
Mhm.
go to the not to consume it, but to use it for progress. You know
Exactly.
that you can
Exactly.
do
There's so many
a
things we
quick
can learn.
data governance, you can do a quick computer course and go and get a job and put it on your
Oh yes.
resume.
Oh yes. Yes, it's so important because even as you were saying, you can do quick courses that you can put on your resume.
Yeah.
It's even making me think of the importance of service, right? I can't tell you
Mm-hmm.
how many opportunities I've gotten just by serving, doing something that I wasn't
Wow.
getting paid for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But later on, you see that, oh, even though I didn't get paid for this thing, I put it on my CV and it helped in a different opportunity that I didn't even think about. So it's important that we use our technology and also we serve in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Very often we're waiting for
Wow.
politicians to change things, and in Africa it's difficult. It takes a while for politicians
Mm-hmm.
to really start making change. But you can do something, you can
Yes.
serve, and in your service, you don't know what opportunities could come for you.
Mm, I'm telling you, and you just talked about service.
Mhm.
Whew, I don't even know where to start. Build your own Calcutta. Build. That's what is Calcutta for you. Mother Teresa, she built her own. So find your own Calcutta.
Mhm.
For me, it's my youth in Africa and what that's where God, I save
Oh,
where I
yes.
can. Use all use the tools in front of you to save.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
do not have to be perfect.
Yes.
Perfection, actually, for me, I've come to learn perfection because
So true.
if you just want to
So
be,
true.
just go on save.
Yes. It's so true. It's very
I'm
true. I
telling
mean, we're,
you.
we're always aiming for perfection,
Mhm.
but there is no such thing, right?
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Just show up. That's what my husband just say.
Exactly.
Monsa, uh, you're better off showing up and just be there,
Yeah.
just be available. And then one thing I want to talk about quickly, mental health, and then
Mhm.
we wrap up. The import
Sure.
in this time and era where especially past COVID,
Yes.
especially a lot of young people are suffering with mental health, not just young people, even adults, mental
Oh,
health.
yes.
How
Yes.
do
Oh,
we?
sure. I mean, mental health, it's because I feel like, as Africans, we this idea of mental health is something that we're only learning more recently. Because when someone
Mhm.
is struggling mentally, we always think of it as, I don't know how to say it, but umuntu wa pena, like walking around in the street and doing all kinds of
Exactly.
horrible things. That's what we think of,
Mm,
right? We think of, a person having a manic episode of some sort. But the
yes.
reality is, I think all of us have struggled mentally at some point, right? It's a
Mhm.
it's a normal part of the human condition. We feel sad, right? Sadness is a normal part of life. Some people struggle with depression, which is an even more
Mhm.
intense form of sadness, right?
Yes.
And again, one thing that I believe is so important, and it's the same thing that I mentioned earlier, is that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's okay. And it's okay to acknowledge that feeling. But what are you going to do about it? Right? So the problem is, because we've been told that if you're suffering mentally, if you're under pressure, you're sad, you're anxious, you're depressed. Exactly. And that stigma that we've put on people experiencing mental health issues is part of the problem, right? So it's okay to feel sad. It's okay. But one of the things that I believe leads to so much depression is when people are alone in a cocoon, right? And because when you feel like you're suffering on your own and nobody else understands what you're feeling, that's when you get completely swallowed up by negative feelings, right? But when you know that other people are experiencing what you're experiencing too, the power of community, right? Find other people, find people who are part of your tribe, people who can encourage you. Go outside, because some of us are introverts. I'm an introvert as well. I live indoors. And sometimes that can lead to depression. Right? Step outside, build a community of people that you trust and can talk to. That's important, because as human beings, we need each other, and that helps us to decompress, mentally.
No, thank you guys. Can somebody just put a heart there for love? Thank you so much to Pastor Camera. Thank you, Doc. I'm telling you, you can go on my Facebook if you're there, or Zambia Blog Tech Radio. You can see, I can read all the comments that people you've just encouraged. And the other thing is, even the people that haven't watched today, they'll be there. Clementina says, I'm a living testimony, Mom. One of those great youths you have impacted. It's me. Please tell the world I'm so grateful. Thank you, my daughter. Like Elias says, service is key. Good vibes. Thank you so much, Dr. Lebo. Thank you so much, Pastor Nathan. I can never say enough. And thank you, everybody, for joining us, for the support and all that you've done. And my baby, I love you. Oh, yeah, Doc. I have to call you Doc. You're my baby, right? I love you
so much. I appreciate it. I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.